Welcome everybody, episode 1 of Longshots. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We have our first guest, Carmine Mattia. What's up, Carmine?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man.
Thanks
Good,
for having
man.
me.
I'm super excited about this, and it's funny because like this week, people saw the video on Instagram, right? Just a little clip, and they're like, so like, Darren, what are you doing? And I explained to him, I'm having this show, and like, I want to, interview like people trying to, explore their purpose and, kind of stand in like full self-expression, and what that means for people.
Right.
And like some people like look at me like, oh my God, that's so cool. And then other people are like, fuck yeah, that's great, man. Like do it. So
if people make the effort to reach out, it's generally a positive thing. That's pretty cool.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, like, listen, for the most part, people care, like the people care, and they want you to be safe, right? And they want you to be, healthy and whatever and happy to some extent, and you know what I mean? And
that's another thing I like about the idea of the show is that it's, being transparent about the fact that like we haven't really done anything yet, like I just want you, whoever's viewing it, to be like on this journey, but let's get that out of the way first. Like the things I've been through for the most part, people like know your story that are close to you. And it's just like same thing with me, like one of your first guests. Like I've done some things that I'm proud of and that are cool, but I haven't done anything that I could really be like, I'm like super, I've made it in some capacity. And there's a huge lane for that because we, of course, like any media goes, like people are gonna digest like the biggest, most popular things, and
that's why I wanted to interview you, because you're going for it, right? You take that little bit of break of light that you've gotten,
right,
and you're just totally trying to run towards that, and like that's what's that's what happens. That's how people become great. Do you remember that first song, or that just was, you were just like, dude, I love music?
I know that Bruce Springsteen was a huge presence. I like him now. It's not like I don't like him now.
Right.
But I have family members, my brother in particular, like they huge fans of him. And especially where we're from in Jersey, like he's an icon and he means a lot to people. Like he really, that middle class, whenever something becomes a caricature of itself like that, it's like the easiest thing to make fun of. But that was around me a lot as a kid. And there was a period of time, maybe from like 5 to 8, 9 years old, where like that's the only music I thought existed.
Right.
Like genuinely, because that's all my brother would play. Occasionally I would hear like some rap stuff, Wu-Tang, Eminem. At the time it was still hot, so I was like, my brother was just like playing whatever CDs he had, but it was that, and my parents would play stuff. But my brother was so my role model. So it was like just soaking up all that stuff that he would play. And I really liked Clarence Clemens, the saxophone player.
Yeah.
So that was always in the back of my head. He was just like the coolest fucking guy. But I don't know. I started playing piano when I was 8 years old. I wanted piano lessons so badly, and I didn't know why. And I still to now, I don't really know why. Like piano, I wanted it so bad. Yeah. Like I know in high school, I was in a class with this kid who I was friends with. He was from my neighborhood. Like we weren't great friends, but just like in this class we were friends. In particular, to get through this fucking art class, and he one day he's like talking about A Tribe Called Quest,
right?
And I was like, who is that? That sounds familiar. Like I just didn't know. And then I would go to the library around this time of my life with my mom. She would go to the library often, and I would go there. And then I realized they had all these like pretty good CDs. They were just older, so you weren't gonna get like hot music there, but they had like these incredible CDs. And I got A Tribe Called Quest CD there.
Which one?
I think Low End Theory, like that was it. Yeah. And that's my favorite one still, just because of that association, Right. Okay. And that made me be like, whoa, because I liked blues, I liked jazz, I liked R&B, I played a little bit of guitar. It was definitely like the Jimi Hendrix classic rock kind of route, because that's what you kind of learn early on. Like that's a route. And it just got to a point where that was like, whoa, it sounds like that shit, but it's hip hop, and the rapping, I think the rapping's like cool. Yeah. It's not that I just got so into that old school era, but that opened a lot of doors for me. I was like, I can make my voice like this. Like, this is kind of like shit I write. And that was a game changer. But early on, yeah, like, I think when I found Greetings from Asbury Park, the Bruce Springsteen album,
great album.
There's just something so funky and raw about that album that I always loved that. I would always tell my brother, like, that's my favorite Bruce Springsteen kind of stuff.
So, like, music is always there for you, like whatever emotion that you're going through, you know, and like, you know, whenever I'm in, like, jammed up, dude, I'm like listening to music. I'm actually listening to music from the first time, like, as soon as I wake up to you know, I'm going to sleep. But like on a personal level, you know, like what does music do for you?
Making it, like, around that same time, high school time, like starting to make it and starting to get really into songwriting, just represented stuff I wouldn't talk about or say, or I wasn't always like,
so it's an outlet for sure.
And I wasn't a totally self-conscious kid. I wasn't a totally confident kid. I was always in between at this mediocre level of everything. That's how I felt at everything I did, but very uncomfortable doing it, you know?
Yeah.
Whether it be like sports, I was obsessed with baseball. I worked so hard to be good at baseball. That was my first like love and passion. And when it came down to it, like, I just couldn't like handle the big time shit. I couldn't get to that next level. I sometimes would have glimpses of it, but I couldn't do it, you know? Like, I just wasn't, and I worked hard too. And I just, you know, just wasn't fucking good enough. And then when that kind of stopped, like freshman year of high school, I tried out for the fucking team and made it through all these like weeks and weeks of tryouts and cuts and kept making it. And then at the last moment I got cut from the team, me and a good friend of mine who fucking hated baseball, he was just pretty good. So he kept going for it, but he hated it. And it basically got to a point where, like, right after that, I was eyeing this bass at a guitar shop in town, and I just, like, that day I was like, I'm gonna go buy that bass, because I was playing guitar already, but I was like, I'm gonna go buy that and like start writing stuff. And the writing, just, you know, music in general, it really just gave me, it was a place where I didn't feel mediocre for the first time, you know? I felt like
that's really,
I was like, I feel like I'm good at something. I feel like this is what it means when something actually clicks and makes sense. That's what music was for me, especially at that time.
That's where it is, and that's where you should stay, you know?
Yeah. Once many years.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, that's like, so if you could stand in full self-expression, you know, while doing that, like, that's where you should live, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, fuck all that other shit that you're like uncomfortable with, or, you know, that you feel less than at. Like, just stay at what you're good at, and everything else will flourish around you. That's the way I look at it. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah, that's why lately I've been leaning more. I've been making a lot more content over the past year, but primarily like the last 3-4 months I've been going a lot harder.
Cool.
It's been like something clicked for me where I realized a good schedule for myself that works to like produce things, and just, you know, all these years of experience, like, they do add up. They just, when you see it come into fruition, you're like, oh, that's why I worked so hard at video editing for 5 fucking years and then didn't do anything with it, and now I have something to do with it, you know? So but what I notice is, like, what I think is the coolest is like writing songs. Like, the next moment, you know, there might have been Tribe Called Quest or Bruce Springsteen, but the next moment was like getting into Beatles stuff and understanding like song structure. That was the shit that nobody else, none of my friends around me or whatever, nobody was like, whoa, the way that verse goes into that chorus and then into a different version of that verse afterwards, like, that's so unique, and that's why this song's amazing. Like, no one gave a fuck about that. Me and Tyler were just like, that's the cool shit. That's what makes you, like, those little chills,
that's
or goosebumps you get.
Yeah.
That's what
that's
the
difference. You know, that's the difference between like somebody who loves music like me and a person who is music like you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Because, yeah, there's some shit that I could show you, and this happens a lot when you're showing people and you're, like, over-explaining it to them, and it's like, no, like, you know, you're kind of fudging up their perspective on it. Like,
right.
It's not...
Like, I don't want to hear you geek out about it.
Right. It's just like, I just want to be like, what do you think of this song? You know?
Yeah.
You like this thing I did?
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up about it. Yeah.
I don't want to fucking hear that shit again.
That's cool. Yeah. So your buddy Tyler, you just mentioned,
yeah.
You guys have been obviously boys since you were little, but talk about like that first experience when you're like, yeah, let's try and put this together.
Oh man.
How old were you?
We had so much fun. Let's see, I met him we were in 8th grade. I met him I knew of him. I think we knew of each other, but like not, you know, just mutual friends. It wasn't like we ever talked. And then we were in a sewing class in the 8th grade. Right. And we had this little old lady teacher who was just like real grumpy, like sweet lady probably in real life. But when you're a kid, you don't think about that. You're just like this little annoying bitch. And she was really nice, but it was just so easy to make fun of her. She's this tiny little lady who like, she'd like talk like this and like would say like little weird things. And we just like would outwardly make fun of her, and like she would notice, and there was no way for her to control the class. Oh. And so we kind of just knew that like him and I were both like just making each other laugh so hard. And then I think remember when AIM was popular? I know. Yeah. It's always been that way. It was so fun though.
I've known Carmine real quick since he was like 16. He's always been that little asshole.
Yeah. Especially at those ages when you're trying to impress people and be funny. Yeah, there's casualties, man. That teacher was a casualty just for me to get a laugh. I was never in
school long enough to do any of that. I was always skipping out.
Really? Yeah, I did that later, but I was always crafty with it. But yeah, I would definitely, that's where we met. And then AIM was still really popular, instant messaging. So we were on that. And I forget, we started talking. We were talking one day, and he lied to me and told me, he had like a studio at his house, and he was like telling me how awesome it was and like really like hyping it up because we were such bullshitters then. Yeah. Like I told him that I could play the Freebird solo on guitar and I could play like 6 seconds of it because it's like like not very difficult. And and he took it as like I could play the whole thing. So we basically were just bullshitting each other back and forth. And then we got together at his house. Probably the next year, I don't even remember. In freshman year, we started hanging out because we just, I don't know, all of our friend groups were kind of mixing. It felt like a very meant to be type of thing. And then we started hanging out making music, and we really just started making joke like parodies, like Weird Al type songs of like modern hip hop stuff. So like Lil Wayne, G Unit stuff, things that we just thought was so popular but so corny. Like we were just like, it's just not that good. Like that early 2000s trend. Like
yeah, I remember you guys. My cousin at Mulligan's gave you guys a shot to play on. What was it? A Saturday night? No.
I think it was definitely a Friday or Saturday.
Okay,
it was like. So yeah, I guess at that time. So we had been doing that since like 8th grade, freshman year. I can't really remember when it exactly started, but we were making joke comedy songs, and they were ridiculous. We were really raunchy, like.
Right.
Like potty mouth fucking kids that like, you know, grown up in New Jersey with parents who curse all the time and just like, and there was one day where we were writing this song. We were like kind of pissed off about people from school or whatever. And we were just bitching about, you know, people in high school. And we started writing the song called People. And it was like, his hook was super serious. The beat was super serious. And what I was writing about was like kind of funny, but like the flow was better. It was just a better song.
Yeah.
And we both had this awkward fucking moment where we're sitting there and we look at each other and we're just like, we were just kind of like, what did we just do? Like, what did we just make? Like, that's actually good, you know? That's actually
cool, man.
And
that's really cool. Yeah.
I think it threw us off. I think at that point we were like, wow, I think we could really seriously do this. Then high school, you know, sports kind of exit my life, and then I go buy a bass, and I was reluctant on getting the bass at first, but then at that point we started writing like real songs and being like, all right, what if we do take this seriously? What happens? And good things just continued to happen. At that time, I started working at Mulligan's. And just a fucking 16-year-old busboy there. And I heard him get canceled on by, there was this big band that would come and play, actually. I forget their name.
After the Rain.
After the Rain. What were they, like a country cover band or something?
Yeah,
they're big.
Sure.
They were big for like hometown local shit. They would kill it. He was just like, okay. Like, well, yeah, it's fine. Now I don't have any performer for that night. Maybe it was a week out. Maybe it was 2 weeks out. I can't remember. And so we had just started like putting some songs together, and we just met a drummer who like we were kind of into. We were like, all right, this is kind of cool. We tried out a bunch of drummers at that point. And so I ran down to the basement. I called Tyler. I told him that this band canceled. And this has always been with me. This has always been like a big part of my journey. And I think it's really important is to like when you get an idea and it seems like really magical, like really exciting, like oh my, like it's giving you something, that idea. It's like making you excited, like it's probably a good idea, and you should just try it, you know.
Absolutely.
Like even if that sometimes you're wrong, and sometimes it's just more, it's biting off more than you can chew, and it doesn't matter, it can't happen.
It's going to take you somewhere, so do it.
So I had this idea of like, we should play. There's an open night. I know how this restaurant works every night, blah, blah, blah. I know there will be people here. People will be excited for us. Like, we should be the ones who play. And so I ran down and asked Tyler, and I think he was, like, kind of excited about it. But, like, but we really haven't jammed much with this drummer yet. And, like, we just basically agreed, like, it was a good idea. Give it a shot. Because we were, like, talking about, like, then we should get this band together, then play shows and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then I ran up to Matt and I just asked him, and I don't know why he said yes. I just told him I had a band together, and I was like, yeah, like, and he gave us a chance. And then a couple weeks later, we rehearsed for a while. We got some songs together, and like we really started, like, I don't know, it just kind of came together where it was like rooted in blues stuff and some Beatles stuff and classic rock stuff and G-Love stuff and just things that were like really digestible, easy to play, and people liked. And that for me was huge because I was preparing, like doing vocals. Like I wasn't even sure that I was going to do vocals at that point. I wasn't sure if I was going to be like a vocalist for the group, you know?
Yeah.
And Tyler just kept pushing me. He's always pushed me with that, and just like, dude, like you got to do it. Like, and so we would practice in my backyard. And with like a PA system, and like the whole neighborhood would like hear us and stuff. I remember doing it and like kind of not giving it my all, like just on vocals. Like I was scared. I didn't know what I could do with my voice yet.
Sure.
And I also didn't know how to do it. But like I said, that opportunity to continue being mediocre, or like, do you
just
break
fucking go
through
for it
and go for it? Yeah. Do you, for once, my view was kind of like, even though I was young, you know, you put a lot of pressure on yourself as a teenager, but my view was like, for once, are you gonna like not kind of bitch out and just do it, you know? Just try, be willing to fail.
Dude, me starting this, right? I'm not even thinking about the guys that I and people in my life that I talk to on a daily basis, but I'm thinking about the dude that I served a beer to 3 years ago, sitting on his stool saying like, remember him? Right. You know what I mean? Like, definitely. That has no weight in my life right now. You know what I mean? But there's always something in the back of my head that's always trying to talk me out of it.
And the music thing for me was like the first time where I really was like,
it didn't matter that you were 5 foot and Italian.
No. Like, I'll never forget the show at Mulligan's. I literally felt like all of my energy exit my body through my vocal cords, and like all my family was there. Like it was packed. It was like really, really awesome. And everything just came out, and I just did it, and it was the best. It was the best version of those vocals to that point. I never had gotten that good in practice or rehearsal, but I was gonna do it, and there it was like, I just fucking went for it. And it was huge, man. It really, that gave me everything, and I felt like I literally changed my life. Walking around, I felt like a different person, and it gave me confidence for everything. You're always kind of like being too hard on yourself, so if you get a little bit of that stuff, it's kind of the perfect balance of like, now I believe in myself a little bit. Like now I'll try more stuff. And that was a huge
that's exactly it. I mean, those are just small little confidence builders that take you like Like one idea sparks another idea, sparks another idea. You know, like all this stuff I've been doing in the last like 2-3 months has like come from me working in a cold, hot warehouse.
Right.
Just like all day with just myself. You know what I mean? Just like thinking about things I'm gonna do, and it just kind of just like all came out. You know what I mean? And I just kind of launched into it, right? Because there's no, at least for me, there's no like dip my toe in the water type of thing. Like I am, you know, I'm in it, you know, there's no real gray area, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's how I almost think that's like how you have to be. I don't think, I mean, the way that things progress, or I think you should always know that it's going to be slow, but as that slow progression continues, like you have to be going hard at it, whether it's in your mind or like, you know what I mean? Like you have to be making those small wins turn into big things, and they do. And then you can't see it until you look back at it. But
definitely, I mean, you're so caught up in like trying to succeed now that you don't realize you're living your goals and dreams of 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, stuff that you prayed for is happening right now.
It's crazy, and it's, if you're working hard and you're on the right track, like it's really true.
Well, I think it's because like you've eliminated the measurement of success by like what's in your wallet, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
You know, because for me, I just got to a certain point where I just knew that like eventually, if I keep doing these right things, like everything's going to happen. Everything's going to come, and it will. Yeah. I'm a firm believer of that. You know, like I as long as I keep doing right, like I'll be taken care of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just 100% believe in that, and I think that's once you shed those like some of those like societal like things that like, oh, get the job, you know, pay the, you know, like do this, do that, you know, like get married, all that shit, you know what I mean? I think that once you get rid of that, it just becomes really free.
Then it becomes a whole mission of just fucking go do the shit you want. That's how you get happy.
Dude, that's it. Yeah, dude. And like when you're living in that mentality, in that space of like contentment, and like everything is possible. A lot of it, a lot more is you're just that much more open. You know? Yeah. I mean, I just, that's how I've been feeling, and it is so easy for me to like go back into that space of like of fear and resentment and anger and like, you know, all those cheap fucking emotions. You know what I mean? It's hard. It's work to live in a state of like positivity or just like being being a productive person. You know what I mean? Like
it can be hard to maintain. Yeah,
because it's so easy. Like mediocrity is sold so cheaply. It's everywhere. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, just get the fucking job, check out, dude.
Yeah.
You know, fuck it. You know,
absolutely. And there's many days during each week, especially when, you know, you're like a struggling artist, whatever you want to call it, that is super tempting. You think you'd start crunching numbers and think about how much easier rent would be, or how many more things you could buy.
You went from Berklee College of Music.
Yeah.
What was your expectation coming out of there?
Coming out of Berklee?
Yeah, like, I mean, like, so young guy, I graduate college, I'm full of it, dude. I'm ready to take on the world.
Right.
You know, and I can see, like, all I need is just this little glimmer. I'll just break in there. Recession happens, I'm getting laid off, and I'm just like, I'm in the next 3-4 years of my life are just dark. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you come out a couple years ago, economy's a little bit better. It's a little bit different in your world. Yeah. So like, what are your expectations for yourself coming out at that time?
It was either go to LA or go to New York. Okay. As tempting as LA is, I had this big chip on my shoulder with New York, and I wanted to come to New York. I felt like there's just this pride in, especially where we're from. You come here and you conquer that shit. It just seemed like it made the most sense. Stay on the East Coast. So the vibe was like, go find a place for cheap, go live with Tyler and eventually Pepe, our drummer. So like basically get the whole band together and just live that, just live that life, be artistically free, like work as little as you have to get by, and like dedicate as much time to music, and try to find that job, try to find that music business job, because that's what I went to school for. And just this maybe unrealistic goal at the time of like, I'm going to get that job and I'm going to be able to balance everything, and I'm going to have money, and I'm going to change my trajectory, I got too caught up in work and the bills and stuff like that. And it just got to a point where like I tried it for so long and just got kicked down a lot. Just a lot of no, a lot of failure, a lot of trying things. And you don't realize like I don't realize how good I was doing, how good we were doing as a band, and writing stuff and performing a lot of shows. Like we performed a lot. That was a big focus of it. We're here in New York. We got to play like at least every month. But it just never quite got rolling in a healthy way. And that became like a darker time for me, actually.
Well, I saw that you posted on Instagram that you were going to Abbey Road Studios.
Yeah.
Diehard Beatle guy. Yeah. Right? So like I wanted to reach out to you and like see what the hell you were up to, because I know that film scoring had become a passion of yours.
I love cinematic music, love movies. I think 2 years ago now, I got this opportunity, amazing editor and director. And I only had met him once at that point, but I heard he was writing and directing his first film, short film. And I just like locked in, like some moments you just lock in and you see the future, and you're just like, I know, like one of those ideas we were talking about where you're like, I know if I do these certain things, I can make the vision in my head right now happen. And the vision I had was like writing the score to his movie. Didn't know what the movie was about. Only met him once. He barely knew me. I just knew, like when I heard her say he has a script, because this is a guy that I've always loved his story and how he's, he works on real shows in LA, and he really went to LA, and I admire this guy a lot. Read it. And from the second I read it, I was like, I started coming up with music on the train into work. And I was recording ideas like on the sound recorder on my iPhone, like just because I didn't want to forget. I was like, this goes with this scene. And I was like basically starting to write. Yeah. Still hadn't talked to this guy. Months go by and I start making multiple songs for this movie. Don't even know if he wants music in the movie.
Like, I think that's what's dude, that is so important, right? When you go into a conversation in which you're trying to get something from, like, instead of just like going in and asking, right? Bring value, right? So like you go to that conversation.
It's the Gary V formula, 100%.
Yeah, Gary V, David Meltzer, all those guys, right? So you go into the conversation and be like, hey, listen, man, I don't want anything from you yet.
Right.
But like, this is like blah, blah, blah. And then people love that. That comes through, man.
And I told Allie, my girlfriend, I told her like, I'm going to go 1,000% at this, with knowing that he may say like, A, I hate this, I don't like it, or B, I don't want music, or C, I live in fucking LA and I have like professional film score composers that I could work with at any given time.
Right.
Like, so yeah, I started writing a bunch of stuff, and I didn't really have a good setup at that point either. I just around that time I also just started working at the guitar and bass shop. Months go by. I think it was the summer. I probably started in the winter time working on that. And that summer, I reach out to him and I send him an email with like 3 tracks that I had made. And I tell him the whole story. I tell him the truth from the beginning, Cool. I was also really nervous. I was like, this guy might hate me. He might think like, you're overstepping or whatever it might be. And then he got back to me and was like, he was just floored, I think, that I would care that much and like, by not knowing each other. And he really liked a lot of the stuff, and a couple of them he didn't really think fit, but one of them I that became the theme of the movie, the like closing credits theme, he really liked. And then we had a phone call and got acquainted, and I just wanted to make sure that my rules basically were, this is my first time doing this. I'm not going to ask for any money. I'm not going to bring up money at all.
Good.
And
I think that's a huge thing, dude.
And I was like, if it comes, it comes. But like
this is like your selling piece, man. This is
So then we basically agreed, like, yeah, I want you to score this. Like, and he's like, I have screenshots and like stills from it, but I don't have any footage yet to show you. Like, I don't have anything. And I just kept going, like, based off of explanations, concepts, and it's just like writing songs for a band to me, where it's like, let's do what's best for the song, let's do what's best for this movie.
Right.
And those boundaries, I started to realize that I work really well with boundaries and limitations. I when somebody says, like, here's the playing field, like, do as good as you can, but stay in the lines. Like, I actually realized, contrary to everything I thought about art beforehand, where you have to be free and carefree about everything. Right. No, I fucking love the limitations. Like, I know how to work within them. The more I get, the easier my job becomes, and the more creative I actually get. It really is a less is more type of thing for me.
Cool.
Working at my job, and I'm like trying to get acclimated with day-to-day life, and we knew that we were going to move. My girlfriend and I were going to move in together. I get a letter of employment from my boss for like applying for apartments, just to be like, I make this much, like, And that Friday, he calls me into the office, and I'm like, in my head, I'm about to walk into the office, and I'm like, I'm about to get that raise. Like, they missed me while I was gone. I'm about to go, like, get this raise I've been asking for.
Right.
And he's doing it right before I move, because he's a solid dude. Like, this is great, And I go in, and he sits down, he gets all tense, and then he fucking fires me. And I was like, what? I was shocked, dude. It hit me so hard. I was down and out at that point. But I just had this really high. So it's just like, it's really low. And then at that point, I just kind of took the time to like bask in my own bullshit for a little while, and just kind of like feel those
pity party, dude,
a little bit. And
party of one,
but I just hit practicing my instruments and working on upping the quality of my music really fucking hard. Although I was down and whatever, I was excited too. I was really excited for, like, now I have time, you know?
Time is the most valuable thing. Yeah.
And that led into, moving into this place, which we love. Like, we viewed a few places. I finally found a place where I'm like, that's where my studio is going to be. And it was a rough winter, although there was the positive of moving into this place. There were a lot of these like contrasting highs and lows where it's like, where it felt down. Like, not that I'd split up with my band, but like we were moving apart. He was moving to go lay low in where we're from for a little while, and I was moving into a new place in Brooklyn. So it was just kind of like, a lot of changes all at once. Like, when it rains, it really does pour. I also started just opening myself up to like doing a lot of free work for people at that time, just to do something. But it didn't feel intuitive. It didn't feel right, because I needed money more than anything.
Yeah.
But I was just like, it's, I really bought into that, like, start doing free work. It's the long game type of thing.
Absolutely. Long ball. Just tell me a little bit about what it was like at Abbey Road Studios this summer.
I got a really crazy opportunity this past summer, which was probably the biggest win for me in my career so far. Of being out of work, I applied to a bajillion jobs. One of the places I applied to in November got back to me in like April, and it was these two classical composers, really, really amazing musicians and performers, and who also do film scoring. And they got back to me, and an assistant position opened up that I applied for, and it was, someone they went with somebody else. It took a lot of back and forth, a lot of waiting to get them to actually notice me, but Instagram DMs and constant emails and whatever I could do. And eventually, like, they hit me up because their assistant had to leave for the summer. And so I get a call when I'm in Florida visiting my family. Can you start today? I was like, I'm in Florida right now. Like, I can start Tuesday. I get back in on Monday. I can start Tuesday. So I was like, yes, finally, like a good thing happened, you know? And then Sunday she calls again, and I'm with my family. And I'm flying out the next morning. And I get a call saying, like, can you start tomorrow? Like, we need help right away. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, is this one of those moments where you like have to get off the plane and like go and like prove yourself? Like, is this one of the, like, I couldn't tell if it were that kind of thing. I just decided it was that serious. Go to bed in this hotel room in Florida that night and wake up in the morning, get on the plane back to New York, and just take the train from the airport to where they live, and got to work right away. And within the first like 20 minutes, I get offered this contract. In my head, once again, like the short film, like other things, I saw the finish line, and I'm like, I don't care what it requires to get to that finish line. Like, if I do it, I get to go to Abbey Road and be a part of like a real recording session, real orchestral recording session. So I did everything I could for the next 3 weeks, but within the next 3-4 days, like I proved to them that I would be an asset if they brought me there with their content, with their just, you know, little admin things like travel and emails, and just assisting them with whatever they needed.
Right.
And about 3 or 4 days into the job, I just had to ask them. I was like, listen, if I buy a plane ticket now, I'll save myself probably $400-$500 that I don't even have in the first place. Mm-hmm. You know, can I just buy the ticket now instead of waiting? And they accepted. They basically were like, you can buy your ticket. Like, just try your best to raise that money. Like, that's what we need. So I helped them raise the money. And it was fucking awesome. And then here I am another year later with another win, you know, like a shit fucking downward spiral for like 7-8 months. And then another win, and built a great relationship with these people. And I learned so much in Abbey Road. Like, that was a huge game changer for me.
What was it like being in there, knowing?
It was really, really weird. Like, I walk in, and everyone's taking pictures outside. Everyone's taking pictures outside.
Yeah, of course.
So it's also weird to be there and it not be like, this is like the story of my life. Like, it's weird to be there and it not be like, my band made it and we're recording an album here. Yeah. It's like I'm there like secondarily, you know. It's so strange.
Well, that's like kind of like what else I wanted to talk to you about, like in this kind of like wrapping this up, is like, are you okay with the way that you're like, that your path is changing, right? Because I struggled with that big time. You know, I had a dream, a goal, a plan, and it didn't work. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? Yeah. You know what I mean? And I feel like what I was doing for a long time was like shutting off this true person that's inside. You know what I mean? Like there are things that I still like about that old goal and plan that I'm currently implementing. But I was blocking myself off from like doing this type of thing where I'm like engaging and I'm and I'm being just a little bit I'm just 100% out of my comfort zone, dude. You know, getting out of my comfort zone is what is leading me to do great things. And I feel like that's where you're at right now. And like, are you okay with that? You know, like, are you still clawing onto that old, I have to make that work type of thing?
No, I'm super okay. I'm more than okay with it. I'm like thrilled about it. I think I've learned that like the boundaries and limitations, like adjustment is also the name of the game. So it's not about, cool, you had this plan, you went out there, you killed it, you aced the test 100%, didn't have to try, whatever. It's all about, for me anyway, like, cool, you got knocked down, like, what do you do differently next time? And it really, I love how my path is changing, because I can still see the same shit that I saw for like me and Tyler, for me just producing, whatever, all my musical dreams and playing and performing. Like, I still see all them. It's just like, you just don't know. It's a learning experience of like, you're not supposed to know how the path is going to go. What fun would that be? Right. But you don't know what that means at first. You think that means like, this different thing will pop up. Like, you have no idea.
The unknown is an incredible buzz.
But it's the best. And like the fact that I went there like that, I'm like, it was crazy, man. Like, just being in there, standing where George Martin stood on the 50th anniversary of Abbey Road being recorded, like to the day. It was really crazy. So it was a crazy experience, and also for film scoring, like what it means for me as a songwriter, musician, and a fan of music, but also for film scoring. They do huge Hollywood film scores there.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like, it's the pinnacle of that, basically. And I mean, I saw one of the best orchestras in the world play and record. I got to meet them and hang with them, like all of that. And one of the amazing producer, it was a real deal situation, and I quickly rose to the occasion. It's not like I did so much. It's not like I was like super vital to the session, but I was doing shit and I helped, and it was like there was a lot of high pressure situations from right away. It's also how normal it felt. I walked in, everyone's taking pictures outside all day because it's Abbey Road. And you walk through the gate that looks like no one's allowed to walk in, and you're like, oh yeah, people record here every day, all day.
Yeah, and I'm walking through this gate now. So what are you up to now? What are you doing now that's exciting, that you're excited about?
I have a few things going on. I'm gonna start working on new albums for Underground Mantra, probably in the next few months. Yeah, my band is Underground Mantra. Me and Tyler Schwartzman. Working on a little rap project with my boy Pepe and Fito in Chile and LA. So yeah, it's just me like wearing the hat more of like just a rapper and like trying to write the hardest fucking bars I can, and just like rising to that occasion. I'm working on producing a few mini series with really, really talented up and coming, personalities. So got a cooking one I'm working on. I have another interview one based around like drinks and cocktails, helping you out with stuff. So just tons of content, and really looking for another film score, like looking to get my hands on some more of that stuff, and just looking to get into, more studios. Just definitely, I'm also looking to get out there and perform more. You can check me out on Instagram at Carmeno22, CARMEENO22. That's where most of my content is. I try to make stuff every day, but yeah, you can get everything on all platforms. So just basically leaning into all of the things that worked for me last year and trying to add more to it. Open call to anybody that wants to collab. Like, just hit me up. I'm really trying to work with as many people as possible.
Very cool, man. Very cool. All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Well, that was the first episode of Longshots, and definitely, going to be somewhere to grow from, and I think that's just like kind of a lesson to everybody that's trying to start something out, and don't get discouraged when you're first trying to do it.